will receive the morning tithe and offering, and I want to just talk to you a little bit about some things regarding that perhaps you haven't thought about before. But what about quality? We've talked about different things, but what about the quality? You know, cheap is not always a good deal. You want me to say that again? Cheap is not always a good deal. Quality may cost a little more, but in the long run, it is well worth it. So let's look at 1 Kings 15 through 18. I'm going to read this out of the NIV. At the king's command, they removed from the quarry large blocks of quality stone to provide a foundation of dressed stone for the temple. And the craftsmen of Solomon and Hiram and the men of Gebal cut and prepared the timber and stone for the building of the temple. So if you're going to build a house, there's one place you can't cut corners, and that's the foundation, isn't it? The foundation. Matthew Henry, who was a commentator, said that Solomon would have some of the costliest stones laid or buried rather in the foundation. Though being out of sight, worse might have served. No matter what the quality of the materials of the rest of the house, if the foundation was not sound, then the house will not stand. And everything will be wasted because it will all come down. And Solomon was a wise man, so for this reason he had skilled craftsmen build this temple out of the very best of materials. And as wise stewards of God's money, we should strive to get good prices and make quality purchases, but we should never buy cheap. Purchasing shoddy merchandise or getting poor service will always cost more in the long run. And as grandmother used to say, I'm too poor to buy cheap because I'll have to buy it again and again and again. So cheap is not always a wise purchase. I don't know about you, but I don't want to fly in a cheap airplane. How about surgery? Would you like to have a cheap surgery? I can tell you where to get one. Oh. What about buying a pair of glasses that were 50% off because they only had one lens on one side? Makes sense to me, right? Cheap is not always the best deal. So take tools, for example. You can have a very expensive wrench that will bend, twist, break, and rust. But for a few dollars more, you can buy a quality wrench which is guaranteed for life to be trouble-free. Which is the better deal? The one you had to pay a little more for, but it's guaranteed for life, right? I always ask myself, whose life? The wrench's life or my life? Whose life are we talking about it's guaranteed for? What about automobile repair? You can buy cheap parts and install them yourself, only to find out later what you repaired was not the problem. You can paint your house with cheap paint every 3 years, or a higher grade of paint, and only paint maybe 8 to 10 years. Which is a better decision? Usually we regret buying cheap products, but we never regret it when we buy the best, when we buy quality. And so Solomon made an example. He took the very best of those stones and he put them underground where no one would see them. And usually humanity will take the very best they have and hang it out front so everybody sees it, right? And I remember one tract of homes that was built over here, somewhere this way in the valley. And it was a very nice tract of homes, but it was only about 5 years in the foundation and all the concrete started breaking up. And the houses started tilting and sinking. How many remember that? You have to be here a little while to remember that. The whole tract was a total wreck. And the lives of the people that have invested their money into it. I mean, it was just crunching and falling down around it because it didn't have a good foundation. And so I think it's something that we want to follow Solomon's quality principle. If we can't afford quality, then we'll simply do without it until we can. So we could say, I'm never going to use junk again. I'm never going to purchase junk again. I'm going to wait and buy something that has some lasting quality. And may our offerings be today the very best that we can give to build the foundation for us in our giving. And so we'll receive the morning tithe and offering this morning.